Until a body was actually found, they referred to him as missing. But they went about their business of looking for someone who was dead, not alive. They weren't looking for a boy, they were looking for a body. It was the same with everyone. They were someone with a name until they died or were presumed dead. Then they were immediately referred to as the body. First, they brought in skilled swimmers who combed the river from bank to bank, swimming with the current for several meters, and then turning against it back to where the person was last seen, diving deep below the surface, where the sunlight of the living world stopped short a few feet in and gave way to murky, morbid darkness. They fanned blindly around with their eyes wide open, their experienced fingers discerning root and fish from human limb or clothing. Experience taught them that bodies almost always stayed in the area where they drowned, often held down by tree roots and thick rushes like ropes, and would be found within a 4 or 5 meter radius of where the person had fallen in. Then, if still no body materialized, they would call for a pusher tugboat from the River Transport Corporation headquarters upstream in the town of Karima. These little vessels, which were used to tow the bigger barges into port when they were brought in for maintenance, had powerful engines and greatly elevated the search efforts. It usually took some personal connections to secure a tug, and its driver for a few hours, for their village was small and far away, and the corporation was a busy place. However, at this time of year, during the low water period between February and March, the tugboat services could be acquired with little effort, as traffic was slow in the Dongola Reach between Karima and Dongola. Also, the war waged on in the south, all but shutting down the southern reach between Kosti and Juba, where the South Sudanese rebels kept sinking the passing steamers. The tugboat would chug around the perimeter of the area where the body was last seen, its powerful engine churning the water and agitating the river floor. Up would come the mud, the weeds, the fish, and, if they were lucky, the body. Back and forth the noisy tugboat would go, pulling up behind it all that slept at the bottom of the river. Calls were made to villagers downstream, alerting the neighbours to look out for a boy, girl, man, woman of so-and-so physical description, the son, daughter of so-and-so family. If the missing person wasn't found on the first day, people would take turns to camp around the area and wait for the body to float. The putrefaction process usually took around 48 hours, during which time the intestines filled with gas, strong enough to release the person from whatever was holding them down, and allow them to drift up to the surface. Then, wherever they were found, they would be buried, because, as everyone knows, drowned bodies cannot be handled after spending long periods of time in water. The skin becomes friable and rips easily. The bodies are pulled carefully from the water and placed straight into waiting graves that would be dug a short distance away and prayed over without washing or shrouding. There are several graveyards along the sides of the river, coinciding with the shallowest and most turbulent parts of the Nile, where bodies carried downstream are pushed to the surface and caught in place by protruding tree roots and rocks. For as long as people can remember, families from the villages along the Nile travel long distances to pray over their loved ones' graves, miles away from where they should have been buried, had they died a natural death. It is a tradition as old as the Nile itself, and a fate that is intertwined with the fabric of those living alongside the great river.